K-pop idols interviews are always some of the most anticipated parts of the industry, as fans can't wait to hear every word about how idols think. However, it's not always that things go as smoothly as expected. In recent years, BLACKPINK has become one of the most visible acts in global pop and a brand name that transcends K-pop, entering the mainstream of fashion, luxury, and entertainment. Yet, amid all that success, the group, and especially Jennie, have faced growing criticism for their awkwardness, detachment, and apparent lack of authenticity during interviews. And it is especially Western interviews that seem to trip up the girls, as fans have noticed that the lack of perfectly structured frames can cause idols like Jennie to have a harder time. Much of the backlash toward Jennie in particular centers on her demeanor in interviews. One of the most criticized interviews was her Met Gala one, where she was asked a few innocent questions, which she seemed to have a very hard time answering, as if they hadn't been prepared beforehand. When the interviewer asked her what made her the happiest at the time, she answered that it would be getting to go home after the event, and when asked her favorite food, it took her much thinking to come to the answer of grapes and fruit in general. Netizens not only found the interview incredibly awkward to watch, but also believed that it actually says a lot about the kind of media training Jennie has. Some online discussions have offered criticism such as, her mannerism is so forced, and her reactions and the whole interaction were so unnatural. In fact, it looks like the general sentiment is that Jennie looks to be overly cautious, rehearsed, or even disinterested when it comes to on-the-spot interviews. For many, this view of Jennie doesn't really fit in with the confident, untouchable it-girl image she projects on stage or in brand campaigns, to the point where the difference often feels like a jarring drop in energy. This perception has even led people to describe Jennie as a singing and dancing doll, with some even making accusations that her personality feels manufactured by her company rather than genuine. However, one commenter pointed out that personalities can often be faked, especially in the entertainment industry, where having a persona is often desired and a good promotional point, and the issue isn't the fact that Jennie doesn't have a persona, but that she is having a hard time keeping it up when interviews aren't rehearsed. The critique here isn't just about Jennie herself, but about the entire concept of media image in K-pop. Fans are increasingly aware that idols are given personas to inhabit, archetypes that make them easier to market globally. Jennie's cool, confident archetype worked flawlessly on stage, but in unscripted interviews, things seem to crumble. Without choreography, lighting, or a controlled setting, she often seems unsure of how to act. The effect it has on her is so prominent that some netizens even argue that this is simply a symptom of K-pop's overtraining, as idols are taught to perform, not to converse. Others have gone further, saying that Jennie's unpolished interview manner may be why she struggles to connect with Western audiences in the way she wants to, as improvising isn't something that happens often in the Korean scene. Oftentimes, Western media tend to value spontaneity, humor, and authenticity, qualities that are often discouraged in K-pop's rigid PR systems. And it's this cultural mismatch that makes it so that idols like Jennie, who excel in the carefully scripted Korean entertainment world, can look stiff and disengaged abroad. In Korea, politeness and reservation are signs of professionalism, and in the West, these things can be read as cold or uninterested. That being said, Jennie has been known to prepare meticulously for interviews, and her professionalism truly does shine when it really counts. Fans noticed in behind-the-scenes footage from her Cannes Film Festival appearance that she was studying notes for an interview, which many took as her pre-approved talking points. It's clear that there really is a lot of work put in by both her team and herself into making sure that most interviews go off well, but that cannot excuse the fact that she has a hard time delivering when she's seemingly on her own. However, others have also argued that even within some of their more structured interviews, Jennie specifically doesn't always seem to deliver things as naturally as she should, and that it can often come off as rehearsed when fans wished for more authentic responses. Some have speculated that this might come from nerves or social anxiety, but others argue it's a lack of preparation or interest. She's media trained for the Korean audience, but if she wants to gain recognition from actual adults and not just teen or preteen girls, then she seriously needs to learn how to interact. That generational and demographic gap is also a major factor in the criticism. In Korea, much of BLACKPINK's fanbase skews young, and for them, Jennie's calmness or shyness can be endearing. But in Western interviews, especially with older or more seasoned hosts, it can make her seem like she's out of her depth. One example was her interview on The Jennifer Hudson Show, where many pointed out that she didn't necessarily have her talking points in order and seemed to drag out things without being clear in her answers. As one commenter said, "This was so awkward. It's like Jennifer is talking to a 10-year-old kid. Jennie is not giving giving detailed answers, she's being very bland, and the convo is dying out. Another user also pointed out that she is actively choosing to go on these interviews to promote herself as a solo artist and especially focuses on speaking in English in order to show that she is indeed fluent, but often seems like she is at a loss for words for what she actually wishes to say. They also pointed out that most interviews will have the basic questions that she's had to answer hundreds of times before, yet she fails to actually have a prepared answer. The awkwardness isn't limited to Jennie alone, but she often seems to bear the brunt of it because she's the group's most visible member internationally. One of the most cited examples of BLACKPINK's struggles with interviews is their appearance on the Zach Sang show. The host, known for his thoughtful, music-centered questions, often asks about the creative process, a topic that's difficult for idols who don't have much control over their music, which seems to be exactly where BLACKPINK froze up. Even when asked if they have a song that they most connect to from their Kill This Love album, the girls seem to have a hard time even processing the question, and all the girls look to Lisa, who gave a hesitant answer. And when Zach asked whether the girls ever participate in the songwriting process, he was met with silence yet again, with Jennie even making an awkward face at the question while trying to force out an answer. Fans watching the interview could feel that awkward energy from all the girls, as it again enforced what others have been saying about the girls' abilities to do Western interviews. One fan commented, "It's so cringe to watch their US interviews like Zach Sang. That time they didn't really involve themselves in their music, so I don't know why YG chose that kind of interview." They also pointed out that sometimes it's not even necessary to be fluent in English, but it's about being a well-spoken person, no matter what language. Jennie's answer could have easily been delivered in Korean and then translated by one of the other girls, as it's not uncommon for idols to answer in a language they're more comfortable in order to truly get their meaning across. But it's also important to note the fact that there can be a big disconnect between K-pop promotion and Western media. In K-pop, artists are marketed through visuals and performance, not necessarily through discussions of songwriting or production. So when Western hosts expect detailed answers about creative decisions, idols often have little to say, and it often comes across as if the artists are truly uninvolved or manufactured, even if that's just how the system works. While the girls have certainly been more involved in their music since then, it's not something that is usually expected of idols, and it also means that they can't always be prepared for that sort of question by their management. But it's not just the language barrier that has proven to be an issue when it comes to questions about the creative expression of the group. In one particular interview where Jennie could express herself how she wanted, some fans had some issues with the things she ended up saying, as she claimed that BLACKPINK was a new form of hip-hop despite the group not actually being able to fit into that category. Jennie put heavy emphasis on how special BLACKPINK's rapping and hip-hop career had been for the genres, even saying that she doesn't mind what real American artists had to say about the group, something which some fans didn't quite like. As one fan put it, "Clearly Jennie and the interviewer don't know what hip-hop is. This is a super irritating trope. Rap and hip-hop are not synonymous. Jennie raps, but she is not hip-hop." In fact, this particular discussion only got amplified when Jennie later revealed in another interview that she wasn't as interested in being a rapper as the company wanted her to be, and that she was actually pushed into stepping into that role despite better aligning with singing. As she said, "This isn't me. Like, this isn't the journey that I envisioned in my head. Like, I don't think I'm a rapper." And while there's nothing wrong with rediscovering herself, the revelation could make it look like Jennie isn't as authentic about her experiences as she should be, as the different responses came just a year apart. However, while netizens sometimes have very relevant issues with the way BLACKPINK present themselves, it is also worth mentioning that while they often receive criticism for their presence in Western media, much of it isn't always constructive criticism and only adds to an ongoing hate train that especially female artists keep experiencing no matter how they market themselves. Ultimately, the tension around these kinds of interviews also points to how idols are expected to be perfect and professional in absolutely everything they do, even off stage. And as K-pop becomes increasingly global, fluency in English and media presence are no longer optional, they're essential. It's something that cannot be avoided by even the newest K-pop acts who are already entering the Western scene within their first year of debuting, and it's therefore no wonder that acts like BLACKPINK sometimes also have more expectations put on their shoulders as industry seniors. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos about some of K-pop's most discussed moments, and don't forget to let us know down below how you feel about the topic. BLACKPINK's uncomfortable interviews were just the tip of the iceberg. Some idols have faced moments so awkward and disrespectful, fans still talk about them today.
You'd think with it being the 21st century, interviewers would get slightly better at their jobs. You know, showing some respect and not letting the guests feel uncomfortable. But these interviewers came into their jobs that day for the sole reason of putting their guests on the spot, and watching that was really hard. If you want to see the rudest K-pop interviews ever, keep on watching. Twice. Why are Western interviewers so obsessed with the English language? Especially when interviewing a group full of non-English speakers. It's so unprofessional, and it keeps happening way too often for my liking. They either ask them when they're releasing music in English, or they don't even bother to hire a translator because they assume at least one of the members must be fluent in English. This is exactly what happened to Twice at 2018's KCON in LA. The interviewer, Irene Kim, kept asking the same questions to Twice members in English, despite the members looking confused and laughing awkwardly instead of actually answering. Finally, Irene realized that no one understood her, so she switched to Korean. Couldn't JYP hire an interpreter for the biggest group to avoid awkward moments like these? In the same event, they were also asked about BTS, since American interviewers' favorite thing seems to be to bring up other K-pop groups, usually BTS or BLACKPINK. In the interview with Kaylin and FX's member Amber Liu, Kaylin brought up BTS's appearance on The Ellen Show and asked the girls how they felt about K-pop becoming so big, which he could have asked without, you know, bringing up a group they had nothing to do with. Jihyo's answer was professional as always, but can we please just leave these questions to the past? Monsta X. Unfortunately, this is not the first or last time BTS would be brought up unprovoked by American interviewers when they were interviewing other groups. Monsta X appeared on several music events in the US in 2018, including the Jingle Ball event. This of course meant they'd be interviewed by American media outlets, one of which was Access. They conducted an interview with the group and it all seemed to be going somewhat well until they asked the question of whether they were aware if BTS were nominated for the Grammys, which turned the vibes of the interview slightly awkward. The members seemed excited about being the first K-pop group ever to perform at Madison Square Garden, but then the interviewer just brought up BTS's Grammy nomination out of nowhere. The members clapped and looked excited for the group, but fans were not happy with the question. I mean, they even titled the video, "Monsta X are so excited to learn BTS got a Grammy nomination," as if that was the point of the interview. One fan said, "There is no reason for this title or question when Monsta X is doing their own thing and promoting their music. Props to Monsta X for handling it well," which I couldn't agree more with. GOT7. GOT7 found themselves in a similar situation when a reporter from Associated Press put them on the spot on the red carpet at Mama 2019. They were smart enough to delete all clips of the interview from their social media, with the excuse that they called one of the members by the wrong name, but everyone knew it was because of the backlash they got for asking the members about BTS. As GOT7 talked about their goals in the group and joked about wanting to be the biggest group in the universe, the reporter then asked, "So you guys want to beat BTS?" Although the question was unexpected and unrelated to what they were actually talking about, Bam Bam responded quickly by saying, No, we're friends." Jackson spoke too, shutting down the question by saying, "There's no competition, it's all love and support in K-pop." From their facial expressions and gestures, the question had made them uncomfortable, especially since it seemed like it was only asked to try to pit the groups against each other, when they're all very good friends. Unprofessionalism at its finest. BTS. Unsurprisingly, most of the interviews I'm going to mention today are American ones. Shocking, I know, but it's just very strange to me how they have no respect or how they don't even care about crossing obvious lines. Sometimes all they need to do is just a little bit of research into the K-pop world. Ellen is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to this, and she better sleep with one eye open after the way she made the group she interviewed uncomfortable. BTS is no exception to this after they were literally asked if they hooked up with their fans. What was even going through her head when she asked it? Namjoon was so taken back that he forgot to translate the question for the rest of the members and even tried to mislead the question by saying, "We're doing it right now," but Ellen was having none of it. After insisting that the interpreter explain what hooking up means, Taeyang literally yelled out, "Not!" And I can't blame him for sounding as shocked as he did. But it didn't end there. Namjoon, being the sassy king that he is, took a jab at Ellen the next time they appeared on the show. The members went back to the Ellen Show in 2018 to talk about their time performing at the Billboard Music Awards. Then Ellen, tactless as always, asked them similar questions. "Is anyone here dating? Do you have a girlfriend?" Namjoon gracefully avoided the question by saying, "Ellen, thanks to you, every Korean knows what the word hook up means now." Needless to say, they haven't been on the show since then. Super M. Super M also appeared on the show to promote Jopping and Can't Stand the Rain, but Mark had a lot less patience about Ellen's ridiculous questions than Namjoon did. During the interview, Ellen asked the members if they were dating anyone. The members, as it is always the norm, answered that they were all single, and Mark added, "Wait, why are you always curious about this though?" Which is a great point. Are they contestants on The Bachelor or musicians? Why are dating questions always the point of the interview if they're there to promote music? Makes absolutely no sense to me. NCT. Personally, Mark being done with the interviewers is crap is one of my favorite things ever. Remember when NCT appeared at KTLA and on top of being asked about BTS again, the interviewer told Johnny that his English is phenomenal and Mark turned to him and laughed? Or the time the interviewer from Good Day LA complimented Mark's English right after he told her that he was from Canada and he just looked done with everything? It's like complimenting an Italian that they're good at speaking Italian. Brave girls. I wish these terrible interviews were limited only in the West, but unfortunately for us and the idols alike, that is not the case. Brave Girls was met with an unbelievable success that seemed to have happened overnight after their single Rollin' blew up, but as we have already seen before, being successful doesn't necessarily mean you'll be treated with respect by interviewers. In the behind the scenes of their appearance in Yoo Hee-yeol's sketchbook, Brave Girls answered pre-selected questions by their fans. However, the production team thought it would be great for whatever reason to ask Yoona if she considers herself to be old now that she's about to turn 30. Yoojung was also asked if she was planning to get married. Yoona laughed it off and Yoojung answered that she needed a boyfriend first, but fans were furious. Yoo Hee-yeol's sketchbook released an apology, but it is sad to see that successful women in the industry are still being reduced to wives and mothers and are expected to wither away as soon as they turn 25. It's just ridiculous. Guhara. Guhara was faced with the same amount of disrespect when she was repeatedly asked about her dating life by Super Junior's Kyuhyun during her appearance on Radio Star. She got visibly angry when Kyuhyun called her the dating idol and pushed her bottle across the table in protest. The host took this as a sign to keep pushing her about her dating life, culminating in Kyuhyun having the audacity to say, "If I open my mouth, Hara will be over." To which Hara angrily responded, "What do you mean it'll be over? You can't be 100% confident either." She got visibly emotional and upset and even burst into tears at some point. The level of disrespect she faced in the industry, from fellow idols at that, just for being a woman and minding her own business, is absolutely heartbreaking. Girls' Generation. How come this is the second time Kyuhyun gets mentioned here for not having a shred of decency for the women he literally worked with? And why is he so interested in their dating lives? Back in 2014, when Jessica Jung was so secretive about dating Tyler Kwon to the point that only her bandmates and people from the company, including Kyuhyun, knew, she asked the Radio Star writers to not bring up her dating life. And as it was expected from a bunch of people who don't have the best track record of respecting women, they didn't listen. Jessica and the rest of the members were visibly angry, but that didn't stop the host from pushing to get an answer from them. Tiffany jumped in to confirm that Jessica wasn't dating anyone and even stopped Jessica from commenting on the matter, warning her that she was being set up. Seeing as their tactics on stirring things up didn't work, Yoon wanted to invent drama all on his own and accused Tiffany of saying Taeyeon wasn't pretty. At that point, the girls had had enough and warned Kyuhyun not to lie. I'm honestly gonna need female idols to repeat the same energy during these type of interviews and put these men back in their places. Park Bum. Making female idols uncomfortable seems to be the hobby of Korean interviews because yay, patriarchy. During the interview part of her showcase for spring in 2018, Park Bum was asked about her thoughts on Seungri's scandal. Yes, you heard that right. Park Bum, who had no part in the Burning Sun scandal whatsoever and who was having her first solo comeback after 8 years, was asked about the allegations surrounding someone she wasn't even in the same company with anymore. It wasn't the first time idols were being linked to the scandal just because they interacted with Seungri, but that's still doesn't make it okay. When she was asked about the controversy, Bum simply said, "I have so much to do, so I just recently came across the issue. It's my former agency, so I don't think there's much for me to say." But the interviewers didn't stop there. She was also asked about Seungri's retirement and allegations, to which she responded, "I don't know what to say. Why are journalists acting like this is the first day at their job?"
BTS went through their own share of interviews that nearly turned into PR disasters. BTS have been dealing with bad interviews throughout their entire career, but on top of the uncomfortable American interviews and repetitive questions, BTS have also had some interviews that had the potential to ruin their careers as a whole. Be Free incident. Whether you believe it or not, people have been trying to get BTS down ever since the beginning. In 2013, Yoongi, Namjoon, a rapper who called himself Be Free, and other rappers were guests in a broadcast titled Kim Bong-hyun's Hip Hop Invitational First Anniversary broadcast. But since BTS had had their first comeback by then and were appearing on the broadcast for that very reason, there were a few fans who were present at the recording and wanted to take pictures of the boys. Witnessing the entire ordeal, the underground rappers that were participating in the broadcast started taking jabs at them. In the video taken by an army, you can hear someone ask whether idol rappers and underground rappers should be considered part of the same scene. Then the MC also asked whether idol rappers and the rapping scene were two things that went well together. To this, Namjoon answered, "I know when people think of idols, they think of the makeup and clothes, but honestly, if you just listen to our album itself, our album is very hip-hop. This is where things get heated." Another rapper commented, "Hip-hop is not just the name of a genre, it's bigger than that, so I think it's more of a rap album than hip-hop." B-Free then went on to say, "It's just an album that has rap." Namjoon then says since he's part of both the underground scene and a K-pop idol, he can understand both sides and is trying to find a balance between both. Then the rapper started making comments about their makeup and accused them of not wanting to go to Seoul because they didn't want to experience hardships. Yoongi responded, "I eventually came up to Seoul because I wanted to continue doing music with my crew Hyungs, and I thought to myself that it'd be good to first build up more recognition, and that would be a way to continue doing music with the Hyungs." B-Free used his answer to accuse them of wanting to use an easy way to get recognition and money. He said, "You guys could have taken the road towards becoming rappers, but you couldn't beat that temptation. Is BTS's music hip-hop? Is wearing makeup on stage like a girl hip-hop?" This comment stinks and it's totally uncalled for. Yoongi tried to explain that they just wanted to reach more people with their music, but B-Free seemed persistent in making them feel as uncomfortable as possible. If you watch the interview, you can literally feel the tension and anger through the screen. Yeah, very awkward. Namjoon dropped a diss track against B-Free a couple years later and rapped, "I just wanted to rap. You said I'm a puppet. I'm not. Even if that's the reason that people diss me, whether I'm an artist or an idol, don't give an F, this is my life. Whether this becomes porridge or rice, it's the table I laid out for myself." B-Free ended up apologizing to them in 2019, 6 years after the broadcast, tweeting, "To BTS and their fans, I am so sorry for all the emotional pain I've caused. Please forgive me." His apology wasn't welcomed nor accepted by fans, as he had continued talking ill of BTS after the interview and enjoying the attention he got from the controversy. In fact, on one occasion, he had claimed that he would slap the BTS members when he'd see them. I know BTS are big enough not to care now, but man, this interview was one of the worst I've seen. Kudos to them for handling it so professionally. Beatles Code interview. Since we're already discussing awkward interviews BTS had to do at the very beginning of their careers, we must talk about this one. In 2014, BTS made an appearance on Beatles Code to promote their album School Love Affair. The members were put in difficult positions when they were asked about their school uniform part of their concept. Why was this controversial, you might ask? Well, even though school uniforms had been a thing in the K-pop industry way before EXO debuted, it was them who made the concept popular. And with BTS using the concept for their album, many were accusing them of copying their senior group, including the hosts of the show. During the Q&A part of the show, the members were straight up asked, "You copied EXO's school uniform concept?" All we can do is be thankful that BTS are always ready for questions like this and answering them in the best and most professional way possible. Yoongi took the opportunity to address the accusations and said, "Our current song is the last one of our 3-part school-themed concept. We thought since it was school-themed, we must wear uniforms, but coincidentally, it was during the same time frame, so we're actually thankful to be compared to them." The host then kept pressing about the issue, joking that most groups would avoid doing the same things as EXO, but BTS did them despite knowing that they'd get backlash for doing something similar to their senior group. The tension got resolved once everyone started joking around, but why were they going so hard on a bunch of rookies, especially knowing that it's the company who decides their concepts? Plagiarism accusations. Based on this interview alone, journalists should be warned that they shouldn't cross any lines when it comes to BTS. In April 2019, BTS held a press conference for the release of their album Map of the Soul Persona. The event also had a Q&A segment where journalists who were present could ask questions. A reporter completely misused the chance to ask BTS literally anything about the creative process and instead asked them about accusations from 2016. The reporter from a media outlet called Star News questioned the members about the plagiarism accusations they face for the song Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He started, "You mentioned a lot about the inspirations behind your albums, and I want to ask you a question about how you gain inspiration from various works. I was curious if you were inspired by other works for your previous albums outside of the latest one." Not bad, right? It gets worse, believe me. He went on, "Last February, there were talks about Blood, Sweat, and Tears being inspired by another work. I was wondering if you can talk more about that or about the news reports that talked about it." Yoongi and Namjoon wondered if he was talking about the artwork that inspired the albums, especially Wings, which looked like them being generous and giving the reporter a way out of embarrassing himself. As you might have guessed by now, the reporter still decided to embarrass himself. He got right to the point and asked, "I brought up Wings and Blood, Sweat, and Tears because I wanted to know if it's plagiarizing. I wanted to know more about the issues brought up by the French photographer." The members looked visibly taken aback, then very annoyed by the question based on their very relatable reactions. It's not every day that reporters ask about plagiarism issues to their faces. Yoongi, even though seemingly very irritated, handled the question as professionally as possible, responding, "In regards to that, our company's legal team is talking to the photographer. I believe that our official stance will be the same as our company's. Our company is currently looking into it, so I'm sure we'll know when the results come out." The netizens were baffled at the question and how unprepared the reporter was with his question, seeing as he stumbled over his words when he asked it. If you were wondering though, the French photographer who accused the BTS members of stealing his concept for the Blood, Sweat, and Tears music video ended up taking back his claims. Based on this was probably a cheap way for the photographer to get attention, but he backed out once there was a lawsuit hanging above his head. Yoongi knew that they did nothing wrong and that the law would handle it, so why would he bother dealing with a trash reporter? Chart manipulation? Since ARMYs are probably the biggest fandom in the world, it's not much of a surprise that BTS are pulling the numbers that they do. But it also raised a lot of questions, among others, about the reliability of these numbers. Foreign reporters especially talked about how the fandom purchased physical albums in bulk and coordinated buying albums and songs digitally in order to influence chart performances. Even though it's normal for reporters to stir things up by making claims of chart manipulation, it's common courtesy to not make these claims right in front of the members. Billboard held an interview with the members in 2021, pointing out how BTS have been managing to top every music chart possible, despite having weaker numbers in streaming and less radio plays than the pop stars they were competing against. To these claims, Namjoon responded, "It's a fair question, but if there is a conversation inside Billboard about what being number one should represent, then it's up to them to change the rules and make streaming weigh more on the ranking." He said it very well. He continued, "Slamming us or our fans for getting to number one with physical sales and downloads? I don't know if that's right. It just feels like we're easy targets because we're a boy band, a K-pop act, and we have this high fan loyalty." He spilled all the tea there was to spill. It's so great to see him speak out on how differently the Western music industry treats artists like BTS in comparison to other Western acts. The reporters need to understand that the Western entertainment industry is much different from the Korean one. I think it's time that they learn. But BTS weren't the only ones put in tough spots. NCT also faced interview moments that spiraled out of control, and some were even worse. K-pop interviews always follow a formula, especially in the West. Who do you want to collab with? What's your favorite food? Are you dating anyone? Stuff like this. But sometimes the interviewers go off script and almost ruin the reputation of the idols in question, especially NCT, whom journalists seem to be set on canceling. So what are the 6 times that interviews almost ruined NCT? Giving him whiplash. This interview moment is really infamous among NCTzens, and it's for a good reason. If you've ever looked up the lyrics to NCT 127's Whiplash, then you know that they're, interesting, to say the least. If you need more context, some of the lyrics of the song literally go, "Whip me some more so I can feel more," and "I like being alone, except for when I play with you." So naturally, people wanted to know what the song is about, and they had the chance to find out during an interview. During NCT 127's Cherry Bomb Showcase, NCT were asked about the lyrics of the track and the meaning behind them. If you've watched the interview, you've probably noticed that Taehyung and Mark were visibly surprised and caught off guard. So in an attempt to explain themselves, they said whatever came to their mind first, and it turned this whole thing into a mess. After getting over his initial shock, Mark started explaining that his lyrics for Whiplash were about his past experiences under SM Entertainment. Sure. Very believable, Mark. Even Ween Ween smiled at that explanation, so you can't blame people for not really eating this explanation up. Taehyung then said something that made the whole explanation even less credible. He said that he wrote Whiplash thinking of his older sister and how he would whip him into shape and raise him to become stronger. Yeah, I didn't expect that explanation either. But it started a very weird chain reaction of people accusing Taehyung of writing inappropriate songs about his sister. He was called horrible names and questioned on his behavior, but they're forgetting the trouble NCT would get into with netizens if they actually gave explicit explanations to the lyrics. It's probable that either Taehyung just came up with an answer on the spot, and his sister is the first person that came to mind, so he tried to relate the lyrics to her. Another explanation is that SM probably knew that they would be asked about the lyrics, so they already prepared answers, so Taehyung was probably just saying what SM told him to say. Making Taehyung into a terrible person because of this is a big reach and truly evil. Mark that question. Someone needed to put Ellen DeGeneres in her place, and Mark E did it like it was nothing. He's literally everyone's savior. Back in 2019, Super M appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show following the release of their debut EP. During the interview, Ellen asked the members about their love life as if they weren't invited on the show for their music. Ellen asked, "Alright, just real quick, and not for me, but obviously I need to know for the world, are you all single?" The members' answers were obvious, but that wasn't enough for Ellen apparently. She kept pressing for an answer, but Mark instead turned things around and challenged her with one of his own questions. He said, "Wait, why are you always curious about this though?" Which is a very logical thing to ask. If Super M went to the show to promote their music, why are they being interrogated on their relationship status? The interview, and especially Mark's answer, went viral on social media after Ellen was accused of mistreating her staff. Kai also revealed that he prepared for the interview and expected to be hit with more profound questions, but was thoroughly disappointed. In fact, he said that he was more nervous during the group's interview with Radio Shard than he was appearing on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Kai said, "I did not know what she would ask us and what to expect, so I did a lot of preparation for the Ellen show, but she subverted these expectations by asking us a lot of basic and generic questions. Radio Star makes me feel a lot more nervous." Now, all we can say is facts. Double meaning. Whiplash isn't the only song NCT members struggled with explaining. Like, remember when Mark tried to explain what Super M's drip is about for a full minute without saying the word that would explain it perfectly? However, nothing compares to the interview where they're trying to explain the meaning behind NCT 127's Highway to Heaven. The English version of the song has a lot of double meanings compared to the Korean one, so you can see why they were having a hard time avoiding the elephant in the room. I mean, the lyrics literally go, "They know we got the chemistry, love how your body feels on me. When you get back, let me get that." So how did NCT try to make people believe that the song was PG-13? According to Mark, "It's basically a song about you just relieving from your stresses and really taking the highway to heaven with us through our music." I don't really think that's the meaning, but sure. Johnny didn't make things any easier for them as he continued, "The lyric in itself can be interpreted in any way the listener wants. Some people might listen to it and think it's sexy. Some people might just be like, oh, okay." What's funnier than the explanations is the fact that none of the members can keep a straight face while they're breaking down the lyrics and trying to explain them. Especially when Johnny gave up. It's pretty much self-explanatory. You know, however you want to interpret it, you go and do it. Now I'm just wondering how they would explain Wavy's love talk. Stooping low low. Wavy fans became outraged when Ten and Young were asked about a scandal that had nothing to do with them. The two were promoting their new subunit song Lolo at the time and did an interview with the South China Morning Post as part of the promotions. Ten took the effort to reassure fans and lessen their worries by saying, "Fans don't need to be worried about us that much because we're working towards our goals and we're still Wavy." Ten was then questioned by the journalist about his worries about upsetting fans. Ten shared that fans shouldn't be concerned since the members will work hard. He said, "It'd be nice if I can sort out all my worries by myself and they can see the good side of me. That's why I tell our fans not to worry because some stuff we have to figure out for ourselves." But then the two were asked about Lucas's scandal and their stances on it, and all I can say is that I can't believe the audacity. Ten was very professional and vague with their answer, saying that the group was working hard, but fans were mad that they were asked to address an issue that wasn't related to them in the first place. A fan wrote, "The rest of the members shouldn't be questioned about the situation. The ones who should be answering all of these questions are SM or Lucas himself." And that's honestly true. Diva behavior. NCT Dream, out of all the groups, had an attitude scandal twice, and it wasn't even that serious in the first place. Let me explain everything that went down first though. NCT Dream made a guest appearance on the Cult 2 show, and it didn't go well for them. The members got into an attitude scandal due to their answers and their behavior on the broadcast. Netizens especially had a problem with Jaemin's quote-unquote insincerity and rudeness towards the host. Jaemin was asked about the song he listens to the most, and he replied, "A song that I've listened to the most. That's the problem. The song I listen to the most is..." The viewers were bothered by the fact that he didn't give an actual answer to the question, and his continuous short answers to Lee Youngji's question on the show didn't make it any better. Their other scandal popped up when NCT Dream appeared on Day 6's Kiss the Radio, hosted by Day 6's Youngkae. Netizens found an issue with Tenla and Mark reportedly fooling around with things not related to the broadcast, and when Youngkae turned his head left and right to listen to the answers of the members, Mark could be seen imitating him. This was considered very immature by the viewers. But Jeno ended up apologizing for his bandmate, saying, "There were a lot of local broadcasts. I tried to stop them, and I'm sorry that I couldn't." After the broadcast, broadcast, while the members and Younghae were taking a group picture together, as is common for shows like this, Younghae was seen bowing to the members, but the members, except one, didn't bow in return. This was seen as controversial since Younghae is their senior in the industry and their actions were considered disrespectful. NCT Dream's demeanor in the show was seen as highly unprofessional, and netizens had a field day on online forums criticizing them. A netizen said, "I've never seen anyone behave that way while they're working. Sure, chaotic energy is fun and adorable, but only when it's appropriate, like when they're filming their own content or V-Live." This backlash was definitely uncalled for, since you can see that the members were only having fun and goofing around. It wouldn't be as interesting of an interview if they just stood in one place and answered Younghae's questions. As for the bowing, if you watch the full clip from the show, the members are actually seen bowing to Younghae when leaving. Another problem that netizens had with the members on the show also had a perfectly reasonable explanation once you get some context. One of the missions of the show was answering the host questions in the manner that is written inside the paper sheet they pulled. Jaemin pulled a paper that said to answer the questions in an informal manner, but since the original poster cut off that part, it just looked like Jaemin was talking informally to a senior. But as always, netizens were quick to jump at the chance to cancel them. Shaking things up. This is one of the biggest recent NCT scandals, and although it's not straight up an interview, it was a live broadcast where the members had to answer some questions. On December 14th, NCT held a live broadcast on YouTube to count down the release of the NCT 2021 album Universe. During the live stream, an emergency earthquake alert was issued that could be heard coinciding with an earthquake that had struck off the coast of Jeju Island. As reported by the Korea Herald, the earthquake had caused panic due to it being one of the strongest in recent South Korean history. But how was the earthquake related to the controversy? Well, when they heard the alarm sound, the members mistook the alert warning for a joke. So unfortunately, Mark, Do-young, and Johnny started to sing the NCT 127 song Earthquake, unaware that it was a real earthquake alarm. The three members soon quieted down when the others told them to stop joking around and ended up apologizing for their rash actions after the broadcast. They basically said that they were sorry for their rash behavior and would reflect on their actions in the future. These apologies just prove that this was a genuine mistake by the three members and that they didn't mean any malice with their actions. I mean, it's also an understandable mistake. If NCT 127 have a song titled Earthquake and an earthquake alarm goes off right before you're about to perform it, wouldn't you think that it was a cue for the performance? It's obvious that the whole ordeal was just a huge misunderstanding, and they apologized for it right away, so the scandal seemed blown out of proportion to cancel NCT. It's just sad at this point. Some interviews can completely change how the public sees an idol, and that's exactly what happened when a T-ARA member finally spoke up in 2024, revealing everything that really went on behind the scenes. Known for their catchy songs and dazzling concepts, T-ARA were one of the most iconic second-generation K-pop groups. This was before the group's reputation suffered greatly due to a widely publicized issue involving mistreatment, but even though it's been over 10 years since it happened, some members seemingly can't let go of the past. The feud between certain T-ARA members dates back to 2012 when 5 of the 8 members posted tweets that were seemingly targeting Hwayoung. These tweets were shared a few days after the group's concert in Japan, which Hwayoung had to sit out due to an injury she suffered a few days prior. Hyomin took to her Twitter account to share her thoughts, which were seemingly directed at Hwayoung's injury. Hyomin tweeted, "There are differences in levels of determination. Let us have more determination." Jiyeon then responded to Hyomin's tweet with her own, once again speaking about determination and remaining humble and sensible. Because of the timing, many netizens started to speculate that Hwayoung was being ridiculed and even targeted by the other members. Things got so intense that some fans, believing Hwayoung was being treated unfairly within the group, went as far as destroying their T-ARA albums and merchandise. In addition, netizens decided to dig into previous group content shared online to see if they could find other instances of the girls turning on Hwayoung. While there were a few moments that could be interpreted as such, with the members seemingly belittling her, they could also be taken as jokes between close friends. The group's career only went downwards when it was announced on July 30th, 2012 that Hwayoung would be leaving the group and the agency altogether. Accusations of members mistreating each other are hard to recover from, and it took a long time for T-ARA to regain public support. In 2015, things took a huge turn when a post stating that Hwayoung was never treated horribly by the members went viral. In the post, the original poster brought back the infamous picture of Hwayoung walking through the airport while she was holding onto 2 men for support. The picture was taken after Hwayoung supposedly injured her ankle. During T-ARA's time in Japan, Japan for their concert. It was even reported that Hwayoung would be staying at a hotel because her leg hurt and she needed some rest. However, the poster shared that Hwayoung could walk just fine by herself and didn't need any help from others. Additionally, instead of attending the group's concert or even resting at the hotel as she said she would, Hwayoung allegedly visited a nail studio. The post also mentioned that Jiyeon once performed at a music show and attended a concert with a broken nose, only taking a day off for her surgery. Suddenly, the public's opinion on T-ARA was once again turning, and Hwayoung was now considered as the villain in this story. For a while, the situation seemed to settle down until Hwayoung and her sister Hyoyoung appeared on the talk show Taxi in 2017, and the situation was brought up once more. Hwayoung spoke about the scandal yet again and shared that the conflict might have happened because they were still very young and inexperienced, and she herself didn't behave like an adult either. The sisters' appearance on the show prompted a bunch of other people to come forward and share their own stories and experiences. A former staff member who worked with T-ARA shared his own story and claimed that both sisters were lying about what had happened. The group's former manager and another member of the staff echoed the sentiment, with the latter revealing some shocking text messages between Hyoyoung and another member, Arum. In these messages, Hyoyoung is seen trying to intimidate the other and even threatening to scratch her face so Arum couldn't appear on TV. The staff member concluded his testimony by claiming Hwayoung only wanted to do the things she was interested in and didn't care to work hard at all. While it was a she says he says situation for a while, netizens were stunned when Hyoyoung's agency confirmed the messages were real and issued an apology on her behalf. As time went by, more and more people came forward to share their experiences of working with Hwayoung. Their former stylist described Hwayoung as rude and ill-mannered and shared she was especially disrespectful towards staff members by not using proper honorifics and never using their names. Two other stylists jumped the bandwagon and criticized her for her unacceptable behavior, claiming Hwayoung often embarrassed them and the staff really struggled to find a reason to like her. With former colleagues sharing evidence against her, netizens heavily criticized Hwayoung. She faced intense backlash, accused of playing the victim while allegedly being the one terrorizing others all along. It's not every day that we see a scandal being such a hot topic, even more than a decade later. On November 8th of 2024, T-ARA's former CEO stole the spotlight when he broke his silence about what happened back in 2012 when the conflict was at its peak. The CEO Kim Kwang-soo appeared on MBN's show Let's Go and claimed that he was a firm supporter of the original members of T-ARA. He admitted to blocking the truth from coming out, wanting to protect Hwayoung and the other members before the public could learn what was really going on behind the scenes. To ensure no one would find out, Kwang-soo ordered the girls to continue with their activities, which unfortunately ended up in the group being shunned by the public at various events. It eventually got to the point when the CEO asked Hwayoung and her sister to bring their contracts over and rip them up. He told the sisters to get out and that he would terminate their contracts without any repercussions. After he practically kicked the two out of the company, the rumors about them being ostracized started to spread online. The CEO admitted that even the parents of the members came to the company and threatened to hold a press conference and publish all of the conversations they had with the company. Although the CEO knew that Hwayoung was in the wrong, he still felt worried about her future because she was so young when the entire scandal happened. So the CEO pressed on with the group's promotions and broadcasting events because he thought that the group didn't do anything wrong. He shared that it would be okay if it was him who would get cursed out, but if the group would stop at the time of the scandal, it could have easily be the end of their career. Even though the CEO didn't admit to regretting his decision back then, he expressed that he felt sorry for the girls and what had happened. The CEO's comments about the scandal triggered Hwayoung herself to respond to what Kwang-soo shared on the show. Hwayoung shared her response on her Instagram account and began by confessing she has been feeling guilty about how the situation ended up ever since it happened. She claimed the CEO spoke about the situation with biased and distorted claims, which prompted her to speak up and correct his claims with her truth. Hwayoung once again claimed that she was indeed mistreated by the other members and that she never pretended to be the victim. Allegedly, she worked hard, was determined not to be a burden to other people, and tried her best to blend in. However, the other members allegedly subjected her to constant mistreatment, be it physical or verbal. The reason why Hwayoung endured these alleged horrible things was because she believed things would get better if she tried harder. She also addressed her ankle injury in the Japanese concert, claiming that she wanted to perform despite her ankle being sprained and that she felt immense guilt towards the members. Last but not least, Hwayoung confessed that she planned to release her evidence that she was mistreated through a press conference, but the CEO intervened and proposed that if Hwayoung kept quiet, he would terminate her and her sister's contracts without any repercussions. Because Hwayoung was only 20 years old at the time, she thought it was the best option. Hwayoung's sister Hyoyoung took to her Instagram to share her side of the story as well, claiming that she felt hopeless at that time, and since she was only 20, there wasn't anything else she could do. Confessed she was scared her sister might act out if she didn't step in, asking people to understand her actions statements which were, although immature and inadequate, her best attempt to protect her sister and her family. Hwayoung's response to Kwangsu's claims sparked mixed reactions among netizens. While some showed her support and encouraged her to move forward, others remained skeptical, blaming Hwayoung for the group's eventual fallout. Eventually, T-ARA's former trainer joined the discussions and spoke in support of Hwayoung. In their statement, they revealed the members didn't react appropriately when Hwayoung injured her ankle. According to them, instead of sending her get-well-soon wishes, they only responded with LOL. The trainer shared that Hwayoung always felt out of place in the group. Allegedly, the original members resented the new ones, believing they were benefiting from the success built through their own hard work. At one point, Hwayoung allegedly had to reside in their living room since no one wanted to share a room with her. Their company apparently knew about it, and according to the former trainer, they should have done something to address the situation. Another trainee, who was with the company around the same time as T-ARA, also confessed that they noticed something was off. Although they personally didn't witness any mistreatment, Hwayoung seemed to be having a hard time as a member of the group, and the others always seemed like they were trying to conceal something. One day, the trainee said they saw Hwayoung come to the company with her cheek bright red, and according to them, it looked like she had been slapped. They also claimed that the company was definitely not on Hwayoung's side at the time, but rather chose T-ARA's side, hoping that the situation would de-escalate if Hwayoung was the only one who people blamed. In response to the new information, the public slowly started to support Hwayoung, with many claiming that they had always believed her. Netizens shared their beliefs that the members probably continued the mistreatment after debuting, since some members of T-ARA were known as Iljeans during their high school days. Hwayoung shared a follow-up statement on November 17th, where she expressed her and her sister's wishes to just forget about the situation. She ended her thoughts by promising she would take strong legal action against anyone who spreads false information about her or her family. Arum expressed similar wishes on her Instagram, describing her time in the group as a scar, nothing more and nothing less. Arum closed her statement by saying that everyone was having a hard time back then and that she wished to lead a quiet and normal life. Even after 10 years, it's surprising that the scandal is still being discussed with new viewpoints emerging. However, as public opinion begins to change, it feels like the story is far from coming to an end. That moment felt familiar to fans when Kina from 50/50 sat down for her own tell-all interview with Dispatch, one that exposed what truly went down during the group's scandal. 50/50's case was a long and weird one, but we can all agree that the most shocking thing about it was when Kina ended up going back to A-Tract with a tearful apology. But people wonder if she managed to save her good relationships with the former members after this ordeal. Even though 50/50 presented themselves as a united front against their allegedly bad company in front of the media, things were different behind the scenes. Out of nowhere, on October 17th, it was announced that Kina had withdrawn her lawsuit against the company and went to apologize to the CEO. This made people wonder what had happened for only one member to go back while the others were still determined to get their alleged justice. To answer everyone's questions, Dispatch conducted an exclusive interview with Kina after she ended up going back to A-Tract. The first thing that was discussed was the way that the Giver's CEO Ahn Sung-il put his plan in motion to get the girls away from A-Tract. In June of last year, former member Sena had sent a message to the staff informing them that she had COVID-19. After obtaining the original picture that was sent, Dispatch found out that the location where the photo was taken was Ahn Sung-il's home and not 50/50's dorm. According to Kina, this was done 3 days before they notified A-Tract that they would be terminating their exclusive contracts. At the time, Ahn Sung-il advised them to stop attending their schedules and sent them pictures of positive COVID-19 tests so they could be quarantined, although the tests were not theirs. The company received the girls' notice on June 16th, and a day later, the members moved out of their dorms. Kina's trust in Ahn Sung-il started faltering not long after they had left. She informed Dispatch that he had initially proposed that the girls pursue the lawsuit, and their parents went on to hire lawyers so they could go through the process of terminating their contracts. Kina shared that Ahn Sung-il had given everyone hope by promising to provide the necessary evidence for them to win their case even though he couldn't directly engage with it. However, he still went on to assure them that this was a fight they couldn't lose, yet ultimately he didn't offer effective evidence and backed out the moment he saw that the girls had no chance to win the lawsuit against A-Tract. What really sealed Kina's suspicion of Ahn Sung-il was when she found out that the latter had literally forged her signature to lower her royalty distribution rate from 6.5% to 0.5%, which is quite the decrease. Then it was also found out that in addition to forging Kina's signature, he had also faked his education records and fabricated the signatures of Cupid's original producers. The members' parents had been pretty pissed, but not furious enough for them to drop the lawsuit against A-Tract. They cut off all contact with Ahn Sung-il, but the legal battle against their former company didn't stop. At this point, they were too deep into this to back out. It also didn't help that An Sung-il filled their heads with lies and manipulated them into oblivion about how much A-Tract owed them. However, as soon as Kina and her parents realized something was off, the cracks between her and the members started to show. In addition to her interview, Dispatch also shared a text that she had sent to the former members. The text was sent 3 months after the whole thing began, and Kina expressed her uncertainty about waiting for and trusting in an uncertain future. In the texts, she explains that the members had little input in the process as they mainly followed the guidance of the adults who were involved and were even discouraged from participating in talks with A-Tract. She continued by saying they had always obeyed the adults' decisions, acknowledging that if they didn't engage in negotiations, A-Tract could manipulate the media, possibly solidifying their image as traitor idols. However, she still appeared uncertain, mainly because the members' side avoided negotiations without hearing the other side, particularly after their injunction was dismissed. In the screenshots, Kina also mentioned that she had regrets about not meeting with A-Tract earlier and even acknowledged their side's attempt to be a martyr for mistreated K-pop idols, but ultimately realized they might have fought pointlessly by insisting on complaints against what most people consider reasonable. What was interesting was that in a case this big, the members had never spoken about the lawsuit in person and never even had the opportunity to. In one of the texts, Kina tells the girls about how suspicious she was about what the adults had to say and insists that they should at least be present in the meeting so they can know what was going on with their case. She wrote, "It is our dream and our life, and so I am telling you that we will be the ones who listen, who voice their objections, and who make the decisions." It's very impressive that she took matters into her own hands after seeing the adults get too greedy and ruin all the hard work that they had put into their careers. But unfortunately, considering how everything unfolded, Kina's pleas for the members to be more involved in a lawsuit that would determine their futures and everything they had worked for weren't heard. Kina said that she was sad that they couldn't continue their journey towards the end since they had built up a lot of affection for each other. However, the fact that she said, "We were really good friends," instead of using the present tense really does make us think. Kina gave a diplomatic answer in Dispatch's interview, but we can't help but wonder just how much the relationship between them was damaged because of the lawsuit. It's possible that the other parents as well as the members thought that Kina was making a dumb decision by dropping the lawsuit. It's even more possible that they might have thought of her as a traitor for coming back to the same company they were fighting against. After all, they had gone into the lawsuit together and thought they would be sticking together until the end, no matter what the outcome was. So for Kina not only to withdraw her lawsuit, but to also go back to the company they were suing with a tearful apology must have come as a shock to them. As Kina said though, she couldn't change anyone's mind no matter how much she tried. She did her part in sending those texts and not only tried to make the members aware of how suspicious the givers and An Sung-il were, but also tried to get the girls involved in the lawsuit. Yet the parents of the members were so greedy that they refused to see anything but what they could gain from this. There was nothing else that Kina could do to save her fellow members, so she tried to get out. Not only that, but she had been with A-Tract the longest, so it's probable that they were already very trusting of the CEO of A-Tract, John Hong-jun, but they were still victims of the gaslighting and manipulation by An Sung-il and the givers. At this point, Kina isn't allowed to talk about the other members, and the other three can't talk about her either, so they're now pretending that neither side exists. Even if they are allowed to talk at some point, they will give answers like Kina's and say that even though they had a good time while they were together, they wanted different things. Kina has been thoroughly criticized by some fans though, especially after she continued to appear at events and accept awards on the group's behalf. She went to the Billboard Music Awards and the Golden Disc Awards to represent the group and even accepted the award for Rookie Artist. A Twitter user found a problem with this, especially since she went on with her career like nothing happened. They wrote, "Can't get over how she went back to the company that hurt her members, got paid, is attending award shows, and getting awards for the success of a song she wasn't even a part of." The backlash against Kina is unfounded though, as she did what she thought was the best for her career. Just because the other members decided to continue the legal battle doesn't mean that she needs to continue to suffer. She escaped a big lawsuit and saved herself millions of dollars, so she can't exactly delve into the past and has to do whatever is necessary so everything she has worked so hard for doesn't go down the drain. Kina still has to pay the litigation fees, but that's not because of A-Tract. After A-Tract won the injunction and the appeal, they asked the losing side to pay for the legal costs, which is common when you lose a court case. A-Tract's CEO has decided not to pursue legal action against Kina for the losses that happened due to the lawsuit, and since they're on good terms now, she doesn't have to worry about the looming threat of another lawsuit anymore. As for the 50-50 members, the fact that A-Tract wants to get compensated for all the damage that the members have caused hasn't stopped them from wanting to be idols. On December 19th, A-Tract sued the 3 former members for $10 million after terminating their contracts with the company. After hearing this, fans reached out to the former former member's legal team to look for ways in which they can help the girls legally. In response, the girls' lawyer mentioned that there was nothing that the fans could do and assured them that the three were taking time to regain their health and practice hard. What was unexpected was that it was also stated that the former members are looking for a new agency as they really want to make more music. Knowing just how the girls are seen by the public, the chances of them having a successful career in their home country are few to none. They seem to be determined to be back to the music scene though, so let's see what happens because it doesn't look like this is the end of their story. But when it comes to damaging reputations, nothing compares to interviewers who take things way too far. K-pop interviews can get quite controversial at times with either a lack of research or plain disrespect, and that has led to some pretty memorable moments that could serve as a guide of what not to do when interviewing idols. During an appearance on Radio Star, G-idol Soyeon was a victim of uninformed interviewers as she was confronted with an uncomfortable and inappropriate question that left fans both shocked and frustrated. At the beginning of the interview, Soyeon introduced G-idol's impressive achievements, including their 7 Rookie of the Year awards and their first music show win within just 20 days of debut. Despite this, host Kim Gu-ra seemed completely unaware of these accomplishments as he asked her how her group was doing with achievements. Kim Gu-ra bluntly asked, "Would we know your song if we heard it?" and continued to explain that with so many rookie groups debuting, it's hard for him to keep track of them all as he said the line, "We only know that ITZY is a popular trending group." Then, without any hesitation, he directly asked Soyeon the inappropriate question, "Are you on the same level as ITZY?" Fans of both G-idol and ITZY were quick to criticize Kim Gu-ra for his question, which many felt was unnecessary and disrespectful. Comparing two successful groups in such a manner seemed to downplay their individual accomplishments, and the question even implied a competition between the two, which fans found uncomfortable. Soyeon, maintaining her composure, responded diplomatically, pointing out that while ITZY had already won first place on a music show from a public broadcasting station, G-idol was still working towards it. Despite the awkwardness of the question, Soyeon's professionalism was highly praised as fans were left in disbelief over the lack of preparation from the interviewer, who seemed unaware of G-idol's success even after Soyeon had personally introduced them to the group. It looks like idols simply can't catch a break when it comes to unnecessary and unrelated questions, as Tomorrow by Together once found themselves face-to-face with American politics during an interview. Back in 2020, TXT joined the online KCON event where they ended up doing an interview on Good Day New York via a video call, during which they were suddenly asked about Donald Trump's political rally. The interviewer brought up the event seemingly out of the blue, making it clear that even she wasn't sure about the question as she asked the members, "Over the weekend, the President of the United States was having a big rally, and he thought 1 million people would show up, but a lot of K-pop fans said they actually got the tickets and faked out the president." The group was asked if they had any idea about the event that thousands of K-pop fans had been arranging on social media, as it was a well-talked-about topic in the US at the time. However, the members didn't seem to have any idea what the interviewer was talking about as their faces expressed shock and confusion regarding the question. Ultimately, Yeonjun seemed to find the best way of answering the question as he simply answered that they had no idea and were simply trying to prepare and practice for KCON. Many fans criticized the interviewer for even asking the question in the first place, as TXT is a Korean group with Korean members, so it wouldn't make any sense for them to stay updated on American politics, especially since they were only there for KCON. Shockingly, the interviewer herself actually came out to apologize after seeing all the backlash on social media, as she had claimed to have seen it trending on Twitter and had had no idea it would upset people. Maybe she will do some more research so she can avoid situations like this in the future. When it comes to interviewers not doing their homework, it's something that unfortunately seems to keep happening, and it's always called out as a huge deal by K-pop fans. Just this past month, BTS's Jin attended a radio show interview where the interviewer seemed to be missing a pretty huge piece of the puzzle when she started speaking about how much she loved Coldplay. The interviewer asked Jin whether or not he had seen them live, seemingly without realizing Jin's history with the band. Jin then had to clarify to her that not only had he seen them live, but he had even performed with them on stage in Argentina. His song The Astronaut is also co-written by Coldplay, which he performed alongside Chris Martin. A lot of fans were understandably disappointed to see the surprise on the interviewer's face, since it's usually expected that some research is done before asking questions. Netizens generally criticized the interviewer for this lack of attention, especially since it seemed downright disrespectful to Jin. One user commented, "With all due respect, it is a reporter reporter's job to research their guest. This isn't our first rodeo together. Others even called the moment embarrassing since it suddenly became Jin's job to educate her on a topic that she very confidently brought up and should have been aware of beforehand. Interviewers can definitely be extremely bold at times, and former Day 6 member Jay once experienced exactly how brazen they could get when he was asked about his controversial exit from his former group. When Jay first distanced himself from Day 6, it was framed as something temporary as he worked on his solo projects. However, as more time passed and Jay seemed to have gotten himself into several controversies, it became quite clear that he might never return to the group. And it wasn't long before the rumor was made official, as JYPE announced his departure from Day 6 on January 2022. In Jay's internet space, it quickly became obvious that he wasn't fond of talking about what had led to his exit, as he often shifted the conversation onto what his own plans for the future were. However, it seems like not everyone understood the implied taboo of his exit, as an interviewer once boldly asked him if he was still in contact with his former members. Clearly taken aback by the question, Jay kept things positive as he revealed that they would only exchange texts once in a blue moon, but that he wished them well. However, despite Jay's polite answer, fans were pretty upset about the interviewer bringing up the past, as they felt it was disrespectful to bring up his former group when the interview was supposed to be about his current work. As one fan put it seems like Jay is very eager for everyone to move on from this time in his life, which is why the question felt quite tasteless, making things more awkward. During a press conference for their album Map of the Soul Persona, BTS also faced an awkward and controversial moment when a reporter brought up a past plagiarism allegation. The focus of the event was on their latest work, but the surprise question revisited some claims that had appeared regarding their 2016 song Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which many deemed inappropriate and irrelevant to the event. The situation started when the reporter awkwardly phrased a question, clumsily bringing up the Wings album while vaguely alluding to the accusations by asking if it drew inspiration from another source. Initially attempting to give the interviewer an out, the members seemed unsure of what was actually being asked, as RM asked for clarification, saying, "Are you asking about the artworks that inspired our albums, especially Wings and Blood, Sweat, and Tears? Did I understand that correctly?" However, instead of walking back his accusations, the reporter took a more direct approach by directly mentioning the plagiarism allegation, saying, "I know this question can be uncomfortable, but I wanted to hear what you had to say." Suga, who maintained his composure, gave a short and professional answer to the question, as he made it clear that the company was handling everything, ending with a firm "thank you," officially shutting down the question. The rest of the members appeared visibly taken aback by what had just gone down, and their expressions of surprise and discomfort echoed exactly what fans were feeling, as they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed either. While many praised BTS for their professionalism, there were also a lot of netizens who criticized the reporter for bringing up a 3-year-old controversy, especially considering the panel was supposed to be about their most recent album and achievements. As many fans might unbearably remember, KARA's Guhara once found herself at the center of an extremely uncomfortable and invasive line of questioning during a televised appearance. The incident unfolded when the host of a variety show asked Hara what type of question she feared answering the most, and Hara candidly replied that she didn't want to discuss dating, clearly setting a boundary. However, her attempt to avoid the topic was immediately dismissed, as Super Junior's Koohyun immediately joked about her being the dating idol. Hara, who was visibly uncomfortable at this point, pushed her water bottle across the table in protest, shocking viewers with her actions, something which is extremely rare for idols to do on television. But rather than shifting the conversation, the host continued pressing her about her personal life. When Hara explained that her opinion was thanks to the media's unforgiving coverage, host Kim Goo-ra came with an even more inappropriate remark, digging into what the media was saying. "Once articles keep coming out, people will stop caring so much. But I was wondering, your relationship doesn't seem like it was that passionate." It was clear that Hara wasn't expecting this much probing into the topic, as she then immediately attempted to defend herself by clarifying that she was just busy with Japanese promotions at the time of the rumors surrounding her relationship. Yet the probing didn't stop, as Koohyun added fuel to the fire by saying that if he were to speak, Hara's career would be over. At this point, Hara's frustration boiled over, as she was even brought to tears, saying, "What do you mean I'll be over? You can't be 100% confident either." The incident left viewers stunned and drew heavy criticism toward the host for their lack of sensitivity. Still, many pointed out that this kind of questioning was, unfortunately, a common experience for female idols during that period. Reporters have no excuse to behave this way, yet they continue crossing boundaries. Sadly, Hara isn't the first, nor will she be the last, female celebrity subjected to invasive and disrespectful questions about her personal life, treated as if privacy doesn't apply to her. And recently, things hit a new low when a podcast made shocking, baseless claims about some of K-pop's biggest names. The podcast Above the Influence is facing serious backlash after making bold claims about some of the biggest names in K-pop. The host talked about everything from Jennie and IU supposedly being involved in sponsorship offers to suggesting that Big Bang members may have known more than they let on about the Burning Sun scandal. Here's a breakdown of the accusations and why many are calling the podcast out for spreading misinformation. In an episode of the podcast, only uploaded on their bonus content platform, which you have to pay to access, the host stirred up major controversy with explosive claims about K-pop idols. The episode featured Kim Woo-tak, a content creator and entrepreneur, Michelle Kira Lee, who has a background in modeling, biotech, and branding, TikToker Little Buns, and someone named Jordan. But it was Kira who sparked the biggest reaction. In clips that quickly spread online, Kira claimed she once dated former Big Bang member T.O.P. Instead of just spilling about their past, she dropped some heavy accusations. According to her, not only did the other Big Bang members know about Seungri's wrongdoings during the Burning Sun scandal, but they were allegedly involved too. She said T.O.P. told her that although they were all part of the club scene, their management team decided to pin everything on Seungri because he wasn't as popular. By saying this, Kira framed Seungri as the group's scapegoat, saying he took the fall while the rest walked away clean. She went on to say, then they paid him out to go to jail, how about you take all the blame, go to jail for a few years, and when you come out we'll give you a good payout. Before it was taken down, the TikTok clip from the podcast quickly blew up, gaining over 300,000 views and spreading across social media, sparking major backlash. But the outrage wasn't just because of what was said, it was also about how wrong it all was. First off, there's no actual proof that Michelle Kira Lee ever dated T.O.P. On top of that, everything we know from journalists and official investigations around the Burning Sun case clearly stated the other Big Bang members weren't involved or aware of what Seungri was doing. Her version of events just didn't line up with the facts. She also got key details completely wrong, like claiming T.O.P. trained from the age of 12 and debuted at 16, when in reality, he only trained for about a year and debuted at 19. She even said the rest of the members were around while the Burning Sun scandal was unfolding, ignoring the fact that they were all serving in the military when the club opened. To top it off, Kira admitted she had been drunk while filming, and with zero evidence to support her story, people not only dismissed her claims, they openly mocked them. Additionally, claiming that Seungri was just the scapegoat for the rest of Big Bang doesn't just sound wrong, but it completely downplays the serious crimes he was actually convicted of. Suggesting that the group's agency threw him under the bus because he was the least popular member shifts the blame away from Seungri and makes it seem like he was just unlucky instead of holding him accountable for what he did. Even if the rest of the members were somehow aware of shady things going on, which again, investigations have shown they weren't, that still wouldn't undo what Seungri himself was responsible for. This kind of revisionist storytelling, especially without evidence, only adds confusion and takes attention away from the actual victims involved in the Burning Sun case. One thing people also couldn't wrap their heads around was the logic, if any, behind the claims. Even if there were a sliver of truth to what was said, which clearly isn't the case, it's hard to believe that T.O.P. would confess to serious crimes involving himself and his group to someone he hadn't even dated that long, who casually admits to felonies, dragging their bandmates down with them in a relationship that wasn't even serious. It left a lot of people wondering why these influencers would risk potential legal trouble by talking about things that are not only impossible to prove, but easy to debunk. It's one thing to stir up drama for attention, but using someone else's name to spread lies this serious, nobody can figure out the motive behind it, and honestly, your guess is as good as anyone's. The claims only got more disturbing and just as outrageous. In the same episode, Kira said that if someone had enough money, they could pay to spend the night with an idol, no matter how famous they were. She used IU as an example and said that a night with someone like her would cost around $500,000. Now, it can't be denied that the issue of sponsorships in the industry is very real. Several idols have come forward to confirm that these kinds of arrangements happen. Dalshabet Seri openly shared that some agencies actually connect their idols with sponsors, while in other cases, sponsors reach out to the artists themselves. Even major figures like CJ Group's president Lee Jae-won have been accused of trying to get favors from artists. He was allegedly involved with a female idol and sent her flirtatious messages, which were later revealed. 8 News also released another conversation showing him telling a CJ subsidiary CEO to promote the idol he was involved with. And then there's the devastating story of Jang Jae-yeon, the actress who ended her life and allegedly left behind around 50 letters detailing how she suffered at the hands of her company and other higher-ups. In them, she wrote that she was forced to entertain 31 powerful men, enduring around 100 unwanted encounters. So yes, it's a harsh reality that some entertainment companies exploit young women chasing their dreams and push them into horrifying situations. But at the same time, these painful truths are often twisted into hateful narratives, used to discredit female celebrities and claim their success wasn't earned, but that they achieved it in exchange for explicit favors. For example, actress Shin Se-kyung was dragged into sponsorship rumors just because she was getting acting offers, with the accusations having no proof behind them. Yena went through the same thing as people concluded that she was taking sponsorship offers just because she was showing up on too many shows and had a YouTube channel. There were some who even tied her to the CJ Group scandal, claiming that she was the female idol who was involved. And during the height of the hate wave against LE SSERAFIM, it got even worse. Social media users were accusing the members, including Eunchae, who is still a minor, of having inappropriate relationships with HYBE's founder Bang Si-hyuk just because they had performed at Coachella. Knowing all this, and countless other similar accusations, it's disturbing how something as serious and horrifying as sponsorships, where idols are actually taken advantage of behind the scenes, is now being thrown around as an insult the moment a female idol becomes successful. These are the same idols fans claim to love, and yet, when they rise too fast or shine too brightly, people are quick to accuse them of getting there by being exploited. One of the claims got even more shocking this time. An idol was named directly, and the story was just as cruel and disturbing. Wootak talked about meeting a girl in New York who had gone to summer camp with the son of the BMW heir. According to Wootak, this guy bragged to the girl that he had been intimate with Jennie. He even supposedly showed her an explicit video as proof, but instead of reacting with concern or outrage over a private video likely recorded without Jennie's consent, the other influencer on the podcast casually asked, "Did it look good?" Jennie has faced unfair accusations many times before, and these claims are clearly rooted in misogyny. Despite proving herself as a strong artist both in BLACKPINK and on her own, she's often targeted with baseless rumors about having connections with powerful figures or being a yacht girl, things that make no sense at all. The podcast comments followed the same pattern, implying that because Jennie is more successful and wealthy than many male artists, she must have gotten there through improper means. This raises a bigger question. Why are these influencers risking serious lawsuits from big names like BIGBANG members, IU, Jennie, and even wealthy heirs just to grab attention with scandalous content that their viewers pay to see? What's even more unsettling is how casually the host treated these serious topics. If even a small part of their claims were true, it would mean these influencers are openly discussing major entertainment companies trafficking idols. Wootak, for example, casually said that a friend of the girl, who he says is an heir to a big company, is involved in these illegal acts and shares explicit videos. He even claimed the woman watched these videos without permission and mentioned potential victims by name. As a Twitter user put it, "This isn't a haha hey hey moment or gossip, it's a crime. Coming online to talk about this victim's trauma like it's gossip is crazy, shame on you." When the podcast hosts faced heavy backlash online, they decided to respond, but it didn't go smoothly. Wootak took to Instagram saying critics didn't see the full clips because the complete videos were behind a paywall on their bonus content platform. He claimed people edited the clips to make it seem like they were attacking idols maliciously, but in reality, the full conversations provided more context. He also mentioned they had to delete that post within a few weeks because of the flood of complaints. Wootak explained that their channel often covers dark conspiracy-related topics, especially ones they've experienced personally, aiming to bring attention to issues mainstream media avoids. He insisted they never intended to harm Jennie and were only repeating stories they'd heard. He denied ever watching or sharing the explicit video and said no one called anyone names, it was just quoting rumors they'd been told. At the end, he apologized on behalf of himself and his team for sharing information that wasn't confirmed. He stressed he has no ill feelings toward Jennie and genuinely wishes her success, acknowledging that repeating gossip could still hurt her and apologizing sincerely. Later, Wootak posted again, sounding much more defensive. He told K-pop fans to get their facts straight, insisting he wasn't attacking Jennie but just sharing what he had heard related to the darker side of the industry. He argued that anyone could find similar rumors with a quick search and said the backlash was mainly fans overreacting to criticism of the industry, not him personally. The apology didn't convince many people because it felt like Wootak was playing the victim, trying to justify the whole thing as an attempt to expose the darker side of K-pop. But this topic has been covered many times before by credible sources, and no one has ever gone so far as to accuse top female idols of trading relationships for money or name names based on vague rumors. Yes, the industry has serious problems, but there's a way to talk about it without implying female idols got where they are by sleeping with rich people. What made things worse was Wootak accusing others of spreading false rumors about him while he was doing exactly that to Jennie. Many also pointed out the irony of him bringing up the high rates of idols taking their own lives, then spreading damaging rumors that could push those same idols closer to breaking point. A Twitter user wrote, "Why are they trying to dumb it down to, oh, it's just conspiracy theories when they literally out here defaming Jennie, making up nasty lies like she's selling her body?" T-ARA also apologized, saying the clip was taken out of context and edited to make the host look worse. She pointed out that the video wasn't supposed to be made public. She admitted she was just sharing sharing what someone else told her, but recognized that it caused harm to those mentioned. Even after the apologies, Jennie and IU's fans aren't backing down. They're pushing Ada Tellier and EDAM Entertainment to take legal action against the podcast hosts. Fans have even prepared email templates to support the cause. So far, neither the idols nor their agencies have commented, but supporters are determined to hold the hosts accountable. But while interviewers and hosts often cross the line, some reporters insist the idols themselves aren't always innocent either, and their stories might surprise you. Even though many K-pop idols are known for being nice and sweet towards their fans and staff, some have developed a bad reputation for being rude and difficult to work with. The Girls' Day members are kind of notorious for being impolite. They faced backlash for the rude way that they acted when they appeared on Africa TV's Kun TV in 2015. After their appearance, online communities claimed that Girls' Day had treated Taegun, the host of the show, really badly. There was even a debate about a dumpling conflict bit with Hedy and Seoljin, where they used informal speech towards the viewers. During the show, when Taegun placed some dumplings on the table in front of the girls, Seoljin moved them under the table and said, "We don't eat dumplings." The two continued their teasing conversation about the dumplings for a few more seconds. Then the host said that he paid for the dumplings and encouraged the members to enjoy them or he would eat them himself. Seoljin finally put the dumplings on the table, but made a comment that the dumplings were free and the host didn't pay for them. Later, Seoljin removed the wrapping to feed the host a dumpling, but she showed disgust and laughed when his lips touched her chopsticks. After finishing their meal, Taegun tried to discuss their latest album, but Hedy questioned why they should talk about it. Then he can be seen mentioning the group's past struggles and asks who they're grateful for, but the members remain silent except for the sounds of their eating. Later, Taegun tries to imitate a police officer, but the members basically ignore him to focus more on eating. Before that controversy in 2014, Hedy got into another controversy for her supposedly rude behavior. At the Melon Music Awards, Hedy was caught making fun of Beast member Donghoon's speech after the group had received an award. Donghoon thanked the fans for voting for them and promised to become widely known singers. While the camera was on Hedy, she was seen mimicking Donghoon's gestures and repeating his words mockingly, "We will do our best to become widely known singers," while laughing and joking around with her members. She had to apologize, but her apology was seen as insincere, and it even seemed like she was making fun of the situation, so she deleted the apology post. Even though she has long grown out of it, soloist and queen of the first generation of K-pop Lee Hyori was once accused of having celebrity disease in the past. Donga Ilbo reported that when she was promoting her song 10 Minutes in 2003, she showed up to a press conference 30 minutes late. When she appeared on Healing Camp, she said that she wouldn't even greet or apologize to the staff members, so 30 to 40 reporters who were present at the event shut off their cameras to protest her bad behavior. She knows better now, but back then, Lee Hyori started blaming others for her shortcomings, going as far as to think, "I'm Lee Hyori, why should I apologize?" Thankfully, Lee Hyori doesn't behave like that anymore. Unlike Hyori, Boys 24's Lee Hwa-young's bad behavior wasn't exactly exposed by any reporters, staff, or even himself, but by a leaked audio message of him making extremely offensive comments about his fans. Back in 2017, a netizen claiming to be an ex-girlfriend of Hwa-young posted a voice recording of him talking badly about his fans. The audio message spread like wildfire on the internet. He can be heard saying that he hates being called oppa by fans and goes on to say, "It sucks at high-touch sessions, you know, at those events where we hold our fans' hands and greet them. We have to greet 700 or 800 people and it makes me want to throw up. Seriously, their breaths smell terrible." The group's agencies CJ, E&M, and Liveworks Company uploaded an official statement saying that Hwa-young would not appear at one of the group's concerts as he had disappointed fans. If you ask some K-pop fans, Red Velvet's Irene is the first idol to come to mind whenever rude behavior comes up, as she had a pretty big scandal in 2020 when she was called out by a stylist for being incredibly rude to her. In October of 2020, a veteran fashion editor and stylist, Kang Koo-kwa, made a post on her Instagram account sharing her experience working with Irene. She called Irene inhumane, accusing her of lacking character. The stylist said that she had received warnings about working with her, but still remained speechless when Irene lashed out on her. Koo-kwa said, "I thought I had let everything go after meeting all kinds of people throughout my 15 years in this industry, but I was wrong." According to the stylist, Irene didn't greet the staff and sat in her chair, using her phone as she threw a fit to the point that the stylist cried. She also went to talk to Irene in person so she could receive an honest apology, but Irene had disappeared. However, she voice recorded everything just in case and promised to take action. Even though the stylist didn't name anyone in particular, the post caption concluded with the hashtag Psycho and Monster, which corresponded to the titles of songs that Irene had worked on that year, causing online users to speculate that she was the individual described in the post. To make matters worse, several notable fashion editors, photographers, models, and former stylists had liked the post. Furthermore, an individual claiming to be an industry insider expressed their support of the editor in the comment section. After the incident, Irene issued an apology on Instagram, and SM Entertainment Entertainment also issued a statement confirming that she had met with the editor to apologize. According to News One Korea, the editor eventually requested that online users stop speculating and stated that the matter had been resolved through a mutual exchange of apologies. Irene withdrew from public appearances for a while following the controversy, but later made a comeback stronger than before and has not been involved in any similar scandal since then. ZXK's member Kang Sung-hoon was called out for being rude as he was caught talking to fans about how idols nowadays are ugly and have dirty skin. A video with the title Absurd Remark 1, which was posted in 2019, spread around pretty quickly as it captured Sung-hoon insulting the appearances of idols. Sung-hoon is seen sitting down with fans casually and having a conversation in which he can be heard wishing he was taller. Fans told him that he was fine just the way he was, which prompted Sung-hoon to go on a rant about how idols look nowadays. He says, "When I see them at shops, they are friggin' ugly. Why is that? They are friggin' ugly, frickin'. Their skin is dirty too. Why are they so ugly?" Then fans asked him to name specific idols, and Sung-hoon said that there hasn't been a single good-looking idol since Dolbang Shingi. Then he goes on to say that the B2B members were definitely ugly, and that when he comes to produce his idols, he would choose them based on their looks. He said, "Don't you think they should be quite handsome given that they're celebrities, with good skin, with some aura, no?" In addition, Sung-hoon has been criticized for making derogatory remarks about the general public. In a live broadcast in 2018 while walking outside, he made a comment to a passing fruit truck saying, "Don't misunderstand, this is Cheongdam-dong. This isn't some street market or something. Cheongdam-dong is one of the richest neighborhoods in Seoul," so Sung-hoon was implying that street markets are inferior to Cheongdam-dong, and it belittled the worth and importance of people who work in street markets or frequent them as customers. This condescending remark received widespread criticism that even SBS News reported on the incident. Despite disbanding in 2000, ZXK's managed to reunite in 2016, but because of Sung-hoon's ongoing involvement in multiple controversies, he left the group in 2019. Rapper Din has confessed to having caught the celebrity disease and becoming incredibly rude after he appeared on the popular Korean rap competition show Show Me the Money. On Park Myung-soo's radio show, he shared that he became arrogant and stopped showing basic manners like bowing his head to his seniors, except for when he was washing his own face. He also developed a belief that celebrities shouldn't answer calls, and as a result, refused to pick up calls from his own parents because the fame had gotten to his head. Thankfully, he had people who cared about him and were ready to call him out. So, after 6 months of acting like a diva, his older brother scolded him and brought him back to his senses. Take this information with a grain of salt, but it is also rumored that the boys' members, except for Juyeon, are very rude to their staff. It's just rumors, but here's what we know. According to reports, a Twitter account allegedly belonging to a staff member of the boys made a critical post about the members. The post stated, "I can see why Juyeon is the most popular member of the boys. One of the reasons is undoubtedly his looks. He seemed comparatively pleasant during their first photo shoot, while other members were impolite." The post went on to explain that Juyeon has always been kind and gentle and compared to other members. They went on to say that he comprehends directions faster and doesn't display any signs of annoyance or exhaustion, unlike his fellow members. Netizens were quick to believe the accusations, commenting, "The staff swears at the whole team except for one member. I wonder how rude they are." And I can feel the staff's anger through the post. On another separate occasion, the members were criticized about how they were treating a female staff member. On July 6th, a YouTube channel posted a video titled, "Idol Accused of Mistreating Female Employee at Luxury Department Store." The video contains several photos reportedly taken at a department store depicting group members shopping with an agency staff member. The video claims that the boys member New was wearing a backpack in front of a luxury store, and the staff member was seen carrying the bag later. In other photos, the staff member can be seen carrying shopping bags for the other members. The YouTuber claims that the photos were taken at a foreign department store and suggests that such behavior would not be tolerated at a Korean department store. But none of these claims against the boys were ever confirmed or addressed, so it's difficult to take them seriously. Interviews can make or break an idol's image, and sometimes the damage lasts for years. If you want to uncover more of the stories the media doesn't like to talk about, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.